Trigger warning. Ghosts, ghouls, and gruesome stuff ahead. It's weird, it's dark, it's your kind of vibe.
Welcome to Haunted and Homicidal, the podcast where true crime meets the paranormal. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Courtney. Every week we uncover the terrifying, the twisted, and the totally unexplainable. Lock your doors and grab your sage.
Because things are about to get haunted and homicidal.
Oh no! It failed.
Mischa, ASMR.
Those were good ones. I love how she gets up on the mic now. Like she knows that's what she's supposed to do.
That's all you get, Bubba.
She said, but I only had 7. Oh, God. Okay, well, hey, guys.
What's up?
Started out with the Mischa ASMR, because I know that was missing from, the last several episodes.
I don't think we really didn't have anything for her to eat.
Yeah, we just really weren't snacking that week. We were pretty much holding on to it because we had people coming over, and we had big food and all that good stuff.
More of those wings.
I was very disappointed.
They were very small, but I like the sauce that we did.
They were not small in the bag.
Yeah.
But I told London the other day, I am never buying the party wings from Walmart in the bag ever again. I'm just going to buy the regular, Tyson or whatever it is in the yellow pack. Just the regular wings because I don't know what it is with those. I cooked them to the directions specifications, the same temperature, the same time frame, and they shrunk.
Them bitches
They
shrunk.
were so small. I was very disappointed.
You literally finished in 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. But the sauces were really good.
Yeah, the sauces were really good.
That buffalo,
Spicy.
It was good. I liked the honey pepper.
that was good.
That was really, really good. I'm going to put that in just regular chicken and saute it up or whatever. But yeah, that was really good. So welcome back, guys. Today is actually Thanksgiving Day. I don't celebrate Thanksgiving for what it is because it isn't what it is.
I mean, we just eat the food.
We eat food. That's pretty much it. We don't give thanks and we don't cry about being so grateful to be in America because what the fuck is great about America right now?
At this point, fuck everything.
Yeah, pretty much. We just like the food. And
Yes.
I only really like the dressing because we don't do stuffing. Stuffing is fucking disgusting. Leave that shit out of your goddamn turkey. And we get yam patties. Oh, they're so good. Yam patties, and you put them in the oven and you bake them, and they come up crispy on the outside, but they're super buttery and soft on the inside and so sweet. Oh, they are so fucking delicious. Last year I put marshmallows on it instead of doing a sweet potato casserole with marshmallows. I just put the marshmallow on top of that, but they just melted all over the pan, and so that really didn't work out for me. So this year I'm just gonna make them.
Yeah, we always get to pick one meal, one side dish to do, and I have to pick mine.
I just pretty much do everything, and my mom and my grandma make whatever, but the baby will be here by then.
Oh yeah.
So they're trying to figure out, or they were trying to figure out what they wanted to do. And so she asked me last weekend, do you guys do Thanksgiving lunch or do you do Thanksgiving dinner? I'm like, we're lunch people.
Yeah.
Because I want to get it over with, because if I eat all that food, I want to go lay the fuck down.
Take a nap.
I want people out of my house. I want to get my shit cleaned up, get it put away, and go take a tryptophan nap, okay? Yeah, I want people out of my house. I want to be able to relax for the rest of the night. And doing dinner.
Oh, that tickled. Your nose is cold.
Doing dinner would put people here to 6 or 7 or 8, meaning I can't clean up until 10.
Get that booty.
And I'm not trying to stay up all night because my husband will be home the next day. I want to go to sleep real quick and wake up real early the next morning so I can go get my husband.
She just side-eyed me.
She's like, stop talking to me. Thank you. You don't have any food for me? All right, well, I guess we will go ahead and get into more Thanksgiving stuff. Could you lay down? You're making me nervous.
Mish. Come here, Mish.
Okay, well, we'll just go ahead and get into our stories for today.
Mine's like 3 pages, so mine's like super short.
Yeah, mine's short too. Mine is not spooky though.
Not really.
It's kind of spooky, but it has like some very nefarious undertones. Let's just say that.
So I have the Thanksgiving ghost of Marsh Bridge.
Ooh.
So Thanksgiving Day, 1902, a southbound train near Geneva, New York, approaching the Marsh Bridge. And as it approached, the engineer and firemen on board heard a piercing scream.
Oh no.
And when they looked up, they saw a white figure standing to the east of the bridge, frantically waving its arms. They brought the train to a stop. And as they did, another scream rang out, and the figure vanished before their eyes.
Oh no.
They climbed down, searched the tracks and surrounding area for any sign of the figure or the source of the cry. Nada. Nothing.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely nothing.
Nope. This
They
would be one of those
found
times
nothing.
where I would just drive by on the phone with the police, like, hey, y'all need to come check this out because I'm not stopping.
Nope. I'm staying in the car.
Yeah.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Or the train. Fuck that. That train's going super fast. I ain't
Fuck that.
stopping. No, fuck that.
And as they started to cross the bridge, they heard the scream once more. One final chilling wail before silence fell.
No.
So when they finally pulled into the station, the men described what happened to fellow workers, and the workers told them about a deadly accident that had occurred on the same bridge years earlier.
Oh.
A train had plunged off the bridge, killing the engineer and fireman. And according to the story, the quicksand swallowed the fireman's body, and no one ever recovered it.
So the fireman, he is the guy that stokes the fire to keep the train running, right? Is that what I'm?
I think so.
Is that what I'm understanding?
I'm
Not like a hose sexy calendar fireman.
No, the one that
stokes the fire. Okay, I was making sure because I'm like, the fireman. Why was there a fireman on board? Then I'm like, oh, duh. Back in the day when they had to stoke the coals. Gotcha.
Yeah. And since then, there have been reports of seeing a shrieking phantom at the bridge every year around Thanksgiving.
Now, let me also say, I'm not saying people who stick the coals are not sexy calendar people, okay? So don't get offended. I was just trying to discern what was happening. Okay, thank you.
So they began calling it the Thanksgiving ghost.
What was that?
Her.
What did she do?
She laid down.
That was a loud lay down. Misha, you okay, baby?
You want a nibble?
That's what she wants.
You want another nibble? Come here. You want a nibble? You gonna take it from me?
Good girl. You so cute.
They might be able to hear that one too, because she's pretty loud chewing that.
So it was more than just local folklore. It was reported in newspapers across the country, including the Salt Lake Telegram on December 4th, 1902.
So it really did happen. It wasn't just a legend.
Let me get there.
Okay.
I was about to literally tell you that.
Hold on.
Well, you said it was more than just folklore, like the newspapers were reporting on it. So
Hold up.
okay.
Have patience, which you don't got.
No, I don't have that. I can't afford it.
So there was no clear record of an accident on Thanksgiving, nor one in the years leading up to 1902 that exactly matched the description, but there was an event that closely aligned with the details.
Okay.
So March 29th, 1873, a train left Syracuse at 7:45 p.m. heading toward Rochester on the Auburn Road. Within half a mile of Geneva, the train ran into a washed-out bridge over Marsh Creek, where flood waters had destroyed the supports.
Oh, no.
The locomotive, tender, and baggage car plunged into the raging water below, vanishing beneath the surface.
Oh, man.
The passenger cars remained on the tracks, preventing further catastrophe.
Oh, that's good.
But there was no escape, though, for the men in the engine. The violent current tore through the wreckage, making immediate rescue efforts impossible.
Oh, God.
So the search was delayed due to the sheer force of the floodwaters and dangerous debris floating in the creek.
Yeah. Oh.
It wasn't until the following day, March 30th, that the body of engineer... I'm about to butcher this name.
That's okay.
Ignatius Buelt was recovered near the wreck.
That's a name.
And then fireman Augustus Sipple met an even more unsettling fate. They searched the site but found no trace of his body. The flood swept him far downstream, and they weren't able to recover his remains until March 31st, far from the wreck.
Oh, God.
The powerful currents had made immediate recovery impossible, and by the time they found both men, exposure had severely damaged their remains.
Yeah.
Beult's tragic death left a deep impact on his community. His funeral at St. Joseph's Church drew a large crowd, including members of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and the St. Alphonsus Society, a testament to the respect he commanded. His death, along with Sippel's, gave rise to the legend of the Thanksgiving Ghost of Marsh Bridge, a spectral warning of the dangers that once lurked along the tracks.
Okay, but it was in March, not November.
I think because the ghost always shows up on Thanksgiving, I guess.
There's got to be some kind of like deeper story that we just don't know or can't find about that, because it wouldn't make sense of why it's showing up in November unless that was kind of around the time, that it happened. Huh?
I'll get there now. Oh. So, because of what happened, the railroad had to lawsuit shit.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it wasn't a freak accident. Both families sued the railroad for
You said it wasn't?
No, because the family sued the railroad, arguing that the bridge had been in a dangerous state before the flood took it down.
Oh, okay.
So the court found the railroad liable and awarded compensation to both families.
So that would be on like the railroad, not like the city or the state?
You would think it would be with the state because it's the railroad, but apparently I guess that's with the railroad.
Yeah, I don't know. I know
guessing.
like CSX, which is like the railroads here. I know they're responsible for repairing railroads. Like, I don't know, like, if that includes, like, the bridges. I would guess so.
I would think so, yeah. Maybe.
Okay.
And the wreck sent shockwaves through the Geneva community. And then, as details emerged about the bridge's weakened state before the flood, public outcry grew.
Yeah.
The railroad was heavily criticized, reinforcing the idea that the ghost story may have been less about the supernatural and more about reminding railroad men of the dangers of poor track maintenance. For years later, railroad workers crossing the Marsh Bridge may have whispered about the 2 men who perished there, warning new hires to keep their eyes and ears open. So, of course, how did this connect to Thanksgiving? Like, why is for Thanksgiving? So, people have misremembered the wreck's anniversary over time because since the disaster happened in late March, a transitional season, storytellers may have shifted it to another familiar marker, Thanksgiving. And then another theory is that the railroad workers kept the story alive as a cautionary tale during their long, grueling holiday shifts.
Okay, well, that makes
since they work longer then.
Yeah.
Because Thanksgiving marks a time of heavy travel when workers needed to stay especially vigilant on the tracks. So linking the story to this holiday reinforces the idea that this was a dangerous season for train crews.
Okay, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But that is the ghost of Marsh Bridge.
Okay.
I told you it's very short.
Yeah, it's short, but it's interesting. Crazy. I mean, especially for them to know that bridge was not in the best condition, and then they went over it anyway.
Well, I mean, if that's the only bridge, the only way to go, you kind of have no choice.
No, I understand that. But what I'm saying is they knew the bridge was in disrepair, so why did they not have crews out there fixing it? Like, why did they just let it continue to disintegrate?
That's why the family sued.
Yeah, I know. I fully get it. But, if that bridge gives way and if, quote unquote, that's the only way through, you would think they would try to maintain that in as best maintenance as possible, because when they're transporting people, that's money on the line. When they're transporting product, that's money on the line. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. So we're going to transition over to the first Thanksgiving, the real one.
The real one.
Not the one that we have come to know and have been whitewashed into believing is the truth. So when Spanish Admiral Don Pedro Menendez de Aviles came ashore with 800 settlers, he asked that a meal of celebration was served from food provisions on the ship. Basically, their leftovers.
Yeah.
They were on land now. But he didn't go out there and say, you guys cook us food.
Yeah.
You do for me. He said, we've got all this leftover food. We're bringing 800 new people over to this continent, this country, this land, where people already are here. let's share our food with them.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so like great start. Coquito, which is a stew made from salted pork, garlic, and garbanzo beans, is what they had. And it was accompanied by hard sea biscuits and red wine.
Okay.
He invited the Native Americans, the Timucua, I may have said that wrong, I'm so sorry, from their Seloy village, which is located where the Fountain of Youth now stands. They would have contributed to the meal from their own food sources.
Yeah.
So he's like, we have all this food, you guys can bring whatever, which would have been wild turkey, alligator, venison, gopher tortoises, oysters, mullet, drum, catfish, maize, which is corn, beans, and squash. So because they were like on the coast, fish, seafood items, and then like, their crops. Michael Gannon wrote in his book, which is entitled The Cross in the Sand, that it was, quote unquote, the first community act of religion and thanksgiving and the first permanent settlement in the land. According to the memoirs of Father Francisco Lopez de Mendoza Gorales, who celebrated the Catholic Mass once, quote unquote, the feast day was observed after Mass, the adelantando, which was Menendez, had the Indians fed and dined himself. So they had their church service, and then he was like, now we'll eat.
Okay.
You guys eat, we'll eat. And he didn't have to kill people to do it.
Exactly.
Just putting that there. Okay. That feast of Thanksgiving was actually held on September 8th of 1565 in St. Augustine, which is in Florida. Florida, you guys. So this was like the first Florida man, okay? 56 years before the Pilgrims of Plymouth, quote unquote, enjoyed a meal together in gratitude of their first harvest, which is not the reason that they did this. Some historians argue that while America's first Thanksgiving indeed took place in Florida, it actually occurred 40 miles further north and on the year earlier than that in St. Augustine, when French Huguenots, Calvinists like the Pilgrims, held a service of Thanksgiving and feasted with the Timucuans, which are the same people that Menendez celebrated with, in June of 1564, so again a year prior.
Okay.
At the establishment of Fort Caroline along the St. Johns River in present-day Jacksonville, so like kind of mid-Florida.
Yeah.
It is said that they sang psalms of thanksgiving unto God, beseeching him that it would please his grace to continue his accustomed goodness towards us. And that was what French explorer René Goulain de Laudonnière wrote in his journal. There is a historical marker erected by the Texas Society of Daughters of the American Colonists outside of Canyon, Texas, which states that Father Juan de Padilla conducted a Thanksgiving service there in May of 1541 for an army of 1,500 accompanying Spanish conquistadors, Francisco Vasquez de Coronado. This marker in Texas pretty much states that, hey, we were the first ones for celebrating Thanksgiving in 1541, which was 23 years earlier than what they're saying is like, quote unquote, for Thanksgiving here. So Thanksgiving in Plymouth. Most Americans are taught from a very young age that the first Thanksgiving occurred between the Pilgrims and the Indians at Plymouth in 1621, a year after the Pilgrims disembarked from the Mayflower, and it has been revered in America as a peaceful celebratory meal. It was not. However, this is not likely how Thanksgiving actually happened.
Hell no.
While there was a shared feast between the groups, it's not known for sure why they came together or if the Native Americans were even properly invited.
Mm-hmm.
More significantly, the mythical story of the first Thanksgiving whitewashes the colonial violence against the Native Americans, which occurred countless times despite the famous gathering.
Yeah, because with how people are,
they were raping and murdering these people, and then they're trying to say, oh no, let's just have a big dinner.
Because they were like, oh, strange people, need to kill them.
Yeah, pretty much. So, the truth of it all, After the Pilgrims arrived in modern-day Massachusetts in 1620, it is believed that they received help from members of the Wampanoag tribe, but not the Pukwudgies.
Not the Pukwudgies.
With assistance of the native people, the Pilgrims were able to adjust to the new environment. They were also able to have a successful harvest, which they marked with an elaborate celebration with the Wampanoag tribe. Also, not with the Pukwudgies. Not with the giant that helped build stuff.
Nope.
The festivities took place over a 3-day time span, sometime between late September and mid-November of 1621. This would later become known as America's first Thanksgiving, even though it wasn't. Thanksgiving did not become an annual holiday right away. Historians believe that George Washington was the first to declare a national day of Thanksgiving in 1789. According to the Plymouth Plantation, a living history museum in Plymouth, Massachusetts, the first Thanksgiving wasn't even called the first Thanksgiving until the 1830s, and the holiday wasn't made until 1863 when President Abraham Lincoln declared it as such. There are only 2 primary sources that recount the first Thanksgiving feast, quote unquote, and they're both from the settlers' perspective.
Of course.
Yeah, there is nothing from the Native Americans, and even if they were, it probably would have been destroyed, whitewashed, whatever, just to make you think that the colonists were not doing what they were factually doing.
Exactly.
The first account came from Edward Winslow, one of the founders of the Plymouth colony, who wrote about it in December of 1621. His account was rediscovered in the mid-19th century by a Philadelphia antiquarian named Alexander Young.
Oh.
Antiquarian.
What the fuck is that?
People who collect antiques, are very knowledgeable about antiques.
Okay.
He mentioned Winslow's story in his chronicles of the Pilgrim Fathers. In an attached footnote, Young said, quote, "This was the first Thanksgiving, the harvest festival of New England."
Not really.
So, I mean, they could have believed it was the first Thanksgiving just because, they're in Massachusetts and Texas and Florida is really fucking far.
Yeah.
So they could have truthfully believed it was the first Thanksgiving, but we now know that is not the truth. But they're still calling it that, of course. No accountability whatsoever. The only other account was by a Plymouth colony governor, William Bradford, who wrote about it in, quote, of Plymouth Plantation, at least a decade after it happened. Both of these accounts were quite short, not much longer than a paragraph. So they really didn't get into any kind of detail. There wasn't a whole lot of information. So over the years, people have just kind of said whatever the fuck they wanted to say about what happened, and that's just kind of what they went with.
This is what happened. Get over it.
Right. And it didn't happen that way. No, it didn't. It is commonly believed that after the Pilgrims arrived in the New World, they were immediately embraced by the local indigenous people. Right.
Were they, though?
Were they, though?
Were they?
As historian David J. Silverman points out, the myth of the first Thanksgiving has been stripped of its political realities, propagating the misperception that Native Americans just willingly gave up their land to the colonists.
Hell no.
He said, quote, "The Wampanoags have a history of several thousands of years old before the English arrived." And Silverman, who wrote the book, This Land is Their Land, The Wampanoag Indians, Plymouth Colony, and the Troubled History of Thanksgiving.
This land is your land.
Right.
Da, 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 da. I don't know
So,
this song.
yeah, he's saying thousands of years.
Yeah.
And they have never given a piece of land to any fucking body.
No. No.
They're not just going to start.
Hell no.
He said that history shaped who they were, how they responded to other people, their connections to the land, and fundamentally shaped the history of English colonization and Indian responses in southern New England. So, whitewashing shit. This history includes intertribal politics, particularly between the Wampanoag tribe and their rivals, the Narragansett tribe. And it also involves the natives' previous experiences with Europeans. So not just these colonists, previous people who have come on the land. By the time the Pilgrims had arrived, the local indigenous Americans had already been in contact with Europeans for about a century. And this quote-unquote contact had often involved the indigenous people being kidnapped by whites and sold into slavery. That was the men. They raped and murdered the women and the children.
Yes.
So when the Pilgrims showed up, the Wampanoag tribe was reasonably wary of newcomers. The feeling was mutual, especially since the Wampanoag people outnumbered the Pilgrims by several fold. But despite the concerns on both sides, there were undeniable benefits of an alliance. The Pilgrims could show the colonists how to utilize the land. The colonists brought over spices and items that they did not have, that they could then plant and start growing. So a beneficial situation, mostly relating to like food though, right?
Yeah.
So, after all, the only way the Pilgrims were going to survive on this foreign land was to forge a relationship with the natives who would offer them supplies and protection. Likewise, the Wampanoag tribe would benefit from the trade and military alliance with the English settlers. So, it was also about protection.
Yeah.
So, they wanted food and they wanted help defeating the other tribes who, maybe threatened them. Right?
Yeah.
So, there is also the persistent myth that the Pilgrims extended a warm invitation to the Wampanoag tribe to share the feast. Some experts believe that the Native Americans weren't invited at all and instead only showed up when they come to investigate after the Pilgrims fired warning shots in their direction. Not up in the air.
Nope.
Not into the ground. They fired warning shots at the Native Americans. Bullshit. Others think that the Wampanoag chief Massasoit brought his men to visit the settlers on a diplomatic round and happened upon the feast by coincidence.
Yeah.
So if that were the case, like the settlers were like, oh shit, well I guess they're here now, let's invite them.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, go make some shit and bring it and we'll all eat together. So it just wasn't like, hey, one big happy family. It was all like situational.
Yeah.
Like they were not invited. They just kind of happened upon it and then they were like, oh yeah, I guess you can join, whatever.
Yeah.
And it says if the Native Americans were invited, they also probably brought most of the food for the meal because they were the ones tending the land. And the menu was quite different than what we think of as traditional Thanksgiving dishes. So instead of like turkey and pumpkin pie, they probably ate venison and shellfish. There were definitely no mashed potatoes since this crop wasn't even available in that area yet. Cranberries may have been included, but they were likely used as a tart garnish rather than like a sweet sauce and definitely not jellied. And since they had a limited supply of beer, the drink of choice would have mainly just been water.
Yeah.
400 years since the so-called first Thanksgiving took place, Thanksgiving has become one of the most celebrated holidays in the U.S., but it is hard to ignore the harmful consequences that the myth of the first Thanksgiving has had, especially on Native American communities. So, you hear it all the time. Native Americans are savages.
Yeah.
They're only savages because they had to be to protect themselves from the fucking colonists who were raping and murdering their women and their children.
Exactly.
Scalping their men. Selling them into slavery. They had to be. The mythical story behind the holiday has led to misrepresentation of the relationship between Native Americans and the Pilgrims, which obviously was not harmonious. In reality, their fraught alliance was marred by colonial land expansion, the spread of European diseases, which took out a lot of indigenous people, and the exploitation of indigenous resources, which is what white people do.
Yeah.
We are like fucking shit up still as far as resources go. So, of course, because of all of that, tensions erupted into a bloody war. On top of that, the fairy tale story depicts indigenous Americans as being quote-unquote exotic, despite the fact that they were on the land before the fucking Pilgrims were. Native Americans, that means they were here fucking first. Like, how are they exotic?
Exactly.
You would be exotic because
Exactly.
you are a foreigner. Myths about Native Americans are also fueled by the long-standing tradition of young students dressing up as pilgrims and indigenous people, often decked out in erroneous costumes and flamboyant headgear. And that's what bothers me the most because it was only respected chiefs who got to wear headdresses.
Yeah.
Regular Native Americans did not do that, but everybody's running around in fucking moccasins and headdresses, and it makes me sick. Silverman, who wrote the book we were talking about earlier, stated, what I don't think many people recognize as We ask our grade school children to participate in Thanksgiving pageants and to celebrate this mythical Native American consent to colonialism. They did not consent. What we're asking them to do is identify with English colonists as, quote unquote, we, and to think of Native historical actors, the Native Americans, the indigenous people to this country, as, quote unquote, them. So he is saying that there is a definite, distinct difference between the Native Americans and the English, and they're teaching young children that the Native Americans are less than. They are a they, not an us.
Yeah.
He continues on to say, quote, in other words, it is really a way of trying to convince Americans, especially those of European descent, to identify with the Pilgrims as fellow white people and to think of them as proprietors of the country, which they were fucking not. And if you feel some type of way about it, fight me. When non-Native Americans talk about Thanksgiving, little is mentioned about what happened afterwards. In the 1630s, the Pequot War erupted between the Pequot people and the English settlers who were allied with other Native Americans. By 1643, the colonies Plymouth, Massachusetts Bay, Connecticut, and New Haven had formed a military alliance. In the following years, this New England Confederation would fight against several native tribes, including the Wampanoag. However, there were a couple of tribes that remained allied with the English during this time, such as the Mohegan and the Mohawk tribes. And by the 1670s, a major battle erupted between the Native Americans and the settlers all over New England. This would later be known as King Philip's War, the Native Americans' last-ditch effort to avoid recognizing English authority and stop English settlement on their land. So they fought hard.
I would too. That's their land.
They fought real hard to kind of keep the things that they knew, because they knew that these English settlers did not have good intentions. They were nefarious, and they didn't want any part of it. However, settler violence persisted in America and continued well after the United States gained its independence. Ironically enough, some who have heard a bit about this violent history assume that the Native Americans no longer exist.
What?
Yeah, I don't know.
What?
I don't know. It's kind of like some people have learned about Nazi Germany and Auschwitz, and they don't believe it happened. They think it was all made up.
Yes, we made up a wholly...
They think Anne Frank was wrong, or she was not even a real person. Yeah, there are fucking idiots walking among us. I don't know how they're surviving. I really don't.
People make my eye twitch.
In reality, there are 574 federally recognized tribes with thriving cultures in the U.S. today. Thriving cultures. These people are not thriving. Their reservations are tiny. They have very few resources. Native American women, I think, are the highest group of women who are kidnapped, raped, and murdered. And the police do nothing about it. Nothing. It is sick. And there are still Wampanoag people in Massachusetts. Lack of awareness about the origins of Thanksgiving has severe consequences when it comes to how Americans understand their past, or don't understand it, because Americans are fucking stupid.
Yes.
In short, whitewashing the true relationship between the natives and the settlers glosses over the horrific violence against indigenous tribes, which lasted for centuries. It hasn't stopped. It has not stopped. It wasn't until the 1960s that some non-native people began to think the way they viewed history of indigenous Americans. So some people were like, maybe we fucked up.
Yeah.
Around the same time as the Black Civil Rights Movement, Native activists worked tirelessly to make their voices heard as well. They wanted non-Native people to learn the largely forgotten history of colonial violence against them, which contributed to impacting their community. Since then, progress has been slow, but the myth of Thanksgiving origin story has become increasingly challenged in past years, thankfully. Instead of celebrating the arrival of pilgrims, many non-Native Americans have simply chosen to emphasize spending time with their family and friends during the holiday and support Native American communities on Thanksgiving Day. That is what I was saying earlier. We do not celebrate it as Thanksgiving because there's nothing to fucking celebrate. The movement to recognize indigenous history has grown enough that it has compelled some support from state governments. In 2019, California Governor Gavin Newsom, who is a very anti-Trump proponent, and I fucking love this man, issued a formal apology to Native Americans for the state's historical wrongdoings.
Oh, that's nice.
Meanwhile, teachers in schools across America are actively searching for better ways to educate their students on the ugly truth about the so-called Thanksgiving. There is a Virginia school teacher named Christine Jessup, and she stated, "I believe it is my obligation as an educator to ensure history does not get hidden." So, I appreciate the people who are, stepping up and looking at what happened in the past, like the truth of what happened, not the whitewashing of what happened, and realizing how fucked up this whole situation is.
Yes.
Just like with Christopher Columbus Day is now Indigenous Peoples Day. I think, I'm pretty sure there's something that it's called instead of Thanksgiving. I'll have to figure that out. Let me look real quick. So the Thanksgiving is now referred to as the National Day of Mourning. And again, you can still celebrate Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But you should celebrate your family, your friends for what it's worth, not for the genocide and murders of an entire groups of humans. Native or not, they are humans. So you guys can celebrate it however you want it to. We, like I said, don't really celebrate Thanksgiving as a Thanksgiving. We just come together, eat food, go home. There are ways to contribute to the Native Americans. You guys can look that up on how you can help their communities, whether it be monetary or, just spreading the word like they do. They fought so hard to get their voices heard. Just make sure they're loud. Help them be loud. So, this is another short episode, but, got a lot of information. I hope you guys, sit there and really think about what Thanksgiving means, what has happened in the past. Not to depress you guys on Thanksgiving, but history is important, especially so it doesn't repeat itself. And Americans are bullshit.
Bullshit.
And Native Americans, this is their land. They are not here illegally. The Europeans were here illegally. We're the illegal immigrants, not them.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/haunted and homicidal. Facebook is the same, facebook.com/haunted and homicidal. If you guys have any suggestions, comments, stories of your own, suggestions about what we need to cover next, what you would like to hear, what your favorite coffee is, whatever, send us
Coffee
an email.
sounds good.
Yeah, send us an email at hauntedandhomicidal@gmail.com. Again, thank you guys for your support, and see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.